How this guy managed to end up as one of the most foolish kings that ever lived amazes me. And I'm sure you'll be amazed too when I tell you his story. I'm talking about King Rehoboam, the son of King Solomon, the wisest man recorded in history. Solomon, everybody knows about Solomon. He wrote thousands of parables, told proverbs. Solomon was that king that was so wise that Queen Sheba had to come from her own kingdom to come and find out if everything she's heard about the wisdom of Solomon is actually true. And when she came, she was completely blown away. She said, half of your wisdom was not even told me. She meant to say that the rumors pale in comparison to the actual wisdom of Solomon that she experienced. She checked out his kingdom, the layout of his palace, the organization of his servants, his staff, the feeding, everything. And she was completely blown away. That's why it beats me to imagine that a child who grew up in the midst of such wisdom, in the very presence of such immense wisdom, turned out to be very foolish. You know, sometimes you find foolishness in the place of wisdom. This is the story of Rehoboam, the foolish son of the wisest king. Okay, in the last story I told about how King David was a king after God's own heart. God loved David very much. He was actually referred to as a man after God's heart. And God was so pleased with him that God promised him that he would always have a son ruling on the throne of Israel. So when David became old and he died, his son Solomon became king after him. And Solomon was so wise. The first thing he did once he assumed the throne of Israel was to offer a very huge sacrifice to God. And God was pleased by his sacrifice. God was impressed by his heart posture of devotion and humility, that God came to him and asked him, "What do you want me to do for you? Make any request and I'll grant you whatever you ask." And Solomon was so wise that he did not request for money, he did not request for riches, he did not request for wealth, he did not even request for power. Solomon requested that God would give him an understanding heart to rule the nation as he ought to rule the nation. God was impressed. And God told him, since you have such a heart posture of responsibility, accountability, dutifulness, and humility, I'm going to reward you. I'm going to give you wisdom such that there would not be anybody that would come close to you in wisdom. And that's not all. You did not request for wealth, but I'm going to give you wealth. No one will be as rich as you, ever. And God granted Solomon that. And God gave him peace. So Solomon's reign was so peaceful. There was no enemy attack. It was just having fun as a king. Compared to his father David, who had to fight many battles, who had to go through lots of adversity, Solomon had it very easy. And you know what they say about ease? Sometimes they say that nothing really grows in the comfort zone. I'm sure you've heard of that. That was exactly what happened to Solomon. When Solomon became very comfortable, he was not fighting any battle. Nothing was disturbing him. He had money, he had wealth. He started multiplying wives, concubines. And you know how it goes. He was really and truly a ladies' man. And I've said it in a previous story I told, that one of the guidelines that God gave the children of Israel right from the days of Moses while they were still in the wilderness was that their kings must not marry strange wives. Strange wives in this context refers to women who are not of Israel descent. That is, women who are not Israelites by birth. And not only the kings, even the old people of Israel, God frowned at them marrying from other tribes. That's not because God was being racist or anything. In those days, the other nations that surrounded Israel were not people who knew God. They were not serving the God of Israel. Most of them were serving idols that requested serious, wicked practices as acts of devotion. For example, there was Molech that required child sacrifice. And stuff like that were abomination before God. And so God said, do not marry wives, do not marry husbands, do not marry people from those tribes, because if you get married to them, they can entice you, they can make you to start worshiping their own idols and make you to depart from the true God. That was why God gave that directive. But did Solomon listen? No, 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 no. Solomon did not listen. Solomon, he married from Egypt. He married from every tribe and nation. He had all shades of women as wives, as concubines, and all of that. And so Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Solomon was a true ladies' man. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Not just that, he married from all nations and tribes and tongues. He had all shades of women. And so he did not fulfill that principle, that guideline, that law of God, that they are not to marry from other tribes. And the Bible recorded that in his old age, when he became old, his wives began to influence him to start worshiping other gods, to start offering sacrifices to their own idols, to join them. You know how it is. They say that, show me your friend, I'll tell you who you are. Whoever your friend is will determine how your life will turn out to be. You know how the Bible says that do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. Yeah, because when you're yoked with someone, you move in the same direction with them. That's just it. If they go to the north, you have to go to the north with them because you are yoked together. So Solomon had no choice but to follow in the way and practices of his wives. They turned his heart from God and they turned his heart towards idols. And God was not pleased with that. Because of that, God promised that he was going to punish him by dividing the kingdom. Initially, the kingdom of Israel comprised 12 tribes. Because of Solomon's sins, God decided that he was going to take 10 tribes from the house of David. Now, you remember I said earlier that David, during his days, was a man after God's own heart. He pleased God, and God had promised him that he would always have a son ruling on the throne of Israel. But now, with this thing that Solomon had done, and God wanted to punish him by taking the kingdom from his hand, God still remembered his covenant that he had made with David. And so God decided that I'm not going to take the kingdom totally away from the lineage of David. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take majority from the lineage of David. So that was what happened. But, you know, just like good prophecies need an event, occasion, something that you would have to do to trigger that prophecy to happen. Rehoboam was the trigger for that act of discipline to finally happen. So in the days of Solomon, God began to raise some adversaries against him. Some of his servants started planning coup and all of that. But Solomon was very firm, was able to clamp down on them. And that one, who was Jeroboam, ran away from the land of Israel, ran to Egypt. Okay, after Solomon died, Rehoboam, his son, became king. And Jeroboam, the one who was already trying to usurp the throne in the days of Solomon, heard that Solomon is now dead and his son Rehoboam is now king. he decided to come back. So he came back. When Rehoboam now became king, you know, just like when a president is sworn in, there will be a time to address the nation, your plan, your agenda, and all of that. And usually, that should be a time to listen to the people's complaints, to tell people sweet things, to let people feel secure that this king, this new king, has their best interest at heart. That would be the wisest thing to do, right? But not Rehoboam. So Rehoboam gathered the people together after he became king and, addressed them and all of that. But while he was addressing them, Jeroboam, who already was trying to usurp the throne from his father and failed during the days of his father, had already come back. So he instigated the people and they started making complaints. Oh, your father's economic policies were hard, were too harsh on us. The taxes we were paying is too much. Are you going to do anything about us? Are you going to relieve our financial hardship and all of that? They were asking Rehoboam those questions. And at first, he acted wisely. You would think he was going to be a wise king because he said, oh, that's fine. I've listened to all your complaints. I've heard everything you complained about. Come back on so date. I'm going to give you a reply. Go for now and come back. And the people were like, oh, that's fine, no problem. Everybody dispersed, they went home. So Rehoboam went back to his palace and he consulted the elders, the council of elders that served his father, the counselors. Do you understand the portfolio of those people? They were the people, the counselors, the elder council that served the wisest king that ever lived. Do you know how wise they would be? So he consulted with them that, okay, these people have come to me and they've complained about financial hardship, they've complained about taxes, they've complained about this and that, and they are asking me what my own policy would be. Would I relieve their pressure and all of that? And the council of elders, the elders told him, if you want these people to serve you, you have to speak agreeably to them. You have to speak peaceably to them. You have to tell them that you're going to be a good king, that you're going to care about their plight, that you're going to care about their comfort, and that you're not going to be too harsh on them, that you're not going to lay hardship on them and all of that. They counseled him. But that was not enough for him. After the elders have counseled Rehoboam, Rehoboam decided to call on his people, his own peer, the people that they grew up together, people who had no experience at being king, people who had no experience at ruling a nation. He asked them, oh, guys, please come. Do you know the last time that we were at the town square and the people were screaming that there's financial hardship, there's the economic policies are too harsh, and that I should do something to mitigate the financial hardship of the people and all of that. What do you think I should do? Because the elders have told me that I should be kind, I should be nice, I should come down to the level of the people. What do you think I should do? And the elders told him that if you come down to the level of these people, if you speak calmly to them, if you show them that you are a leader who has their best interest at heart, they would love you and they would serve you all the days of your life. The elders had told him that, but he asked his peers, his age mates, yo, what do you think I should do? And those ones told him, don't mind the elders. You need to show the people pepper. You need to prove to them that you are the king. You know how ego works here. So they said, you need to prove to the people that you are the king. No one can checkmate you. No one can do this to your authority. The king's word is the law. You need to prove to them, show them who the king is, show them the true power, show them the true authority. And the Bible recorded, sadly, unfortunately, that Rehoboam decided to jettison the counsel of the elders and decided to dance to the tune of his mates. You know how they say that the foolish, the foolish fly that will follow the corpse to the grave will not hear the beating of drums of warnings. That was exactly what happened to Rehoboam. So the day that the date he gave the people to come back for a reply finally arrived, and the people gathered. So what do you say to our request? And Rehoboam jettisoned the counsel of the elders and said, you know what? I am going to do much worse than my father ever did. If my father was taxing you times two, I'm going to make it times four. If you were paying $1,000 before, you now begin to pay $10,000. My he said, my little finger will be thicker than my father's loins. If my father has whipped you with scourges, I am going to whip you with scorpions. Ah, Rehoboam. That was how Rehoboam just ruined everything. And you know what happened? The people were like, what? What's this? We have nothing to do with the house of David. To your tents, O Israel. David, see to yourself. And so that was how the people rebelled. The people scattered that day. They left his presence angrily and they told him, we will not serve you. We will not be your subjects. We break away from your kingdom. And so, out of 12 tribes, 10 tribes decided to break away from being ruled by Rehoboam, the son of David. But Rehoboam thought they were joking. He thought, oh, it's just child's play. And so, some weeks later, Jeroboam sent someone to go and collect taxes from the people. You know what the people did? They stoned that person to death. And when Rehoboam now saw that, oh, these people actually meant business, Fiam, he got on his horse and ran away from where he was living at that time to a more secure place. And that was how 10 tribes out of 12 broke away from being ruled by the lineage of David. And they chose Jeroboam, that one who was already planning to usurp the throne from Solomon as their king. That was how Rehoboam foolishly broke the throne. Yes, many people would say, well, it's because of the prophecy that God had already given to Solomon that he was going to take 10 tribes out of his hand. But must it be in the days of Rehoboam? That's the question. Must it be in his own days? Must they act foolishly? Because, understand that prophecies are there, both good prophecy and bad and negative prophecies. They're always there looking for fulfillment. But your actions and inactions will determine which one will find fulfillment in your life. If Rehoboam had walked with God with a true heart of devotion and trust and faithfulness and integrity, if he had applied wisdom, God is merciful. God might have decided to postpone that evil, or he might have even changed his mind that because Rehoboam walked before me perfectly, he did not walk in the ways of his father. I am going to repent of the evil that I've promised to do. God is merciful. God forgives iniquity. But Rehoboam was just so foolish. We need to ask ourselves, whose counsels are we listening to? Whose advices are we paying attention to? Because they will determine how far you can go in life. If you have enjoyed this story, I'd like to read your comments. What other lessons have you learned from this story? Which other story would you like me to tell next? Remember to like this video, to comment, and to share so others can learn from the scriptures. Thank you. See you next time. If you are not following me already, please do follow. And if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to press the notification bell so that you get updates immediately a new story drops. See you in my next video. Bye.